Hello and welcome to Community Chats. I'm your host, Aley Hammer, and today we're interviewing Lina from Sportsbet. Lina, it's so great to have you on the show today. Sportsbet is a household name, and anyone who has ever watched a horse race or a competitive sports event would know exactly what Sportsbet is. But can you share with us a little bit about your brand, your product, and also your people?
Yeah, look, I'd be surprised if there's anyone that hasn't heard of Sportsbet. We're a fairly iconic brand, particularly in some parts of Australia. But for those that haven't heard of us, basically we're a digital online wagering company. That's a really simplistic definition, and our brand is a lot more than that. But essentially, we offer a range of products and experiences for our customers that we're ultimately driven by trying to add a little bit of fun and excitement to people's lives. So that's kind of what sits at the heart of our brand. In terms of customers, in 2020, we had over 2 million active customers engage with us, which is pretty awesome. 2020 was a phenomenal year, but to have so many customers engage with us either directly through the platform or the products, or through social and free-to-play games, as well as our media and social content is just awesome. So just to give you a sense of some of the products, we have some customers, place bets with us, obviously, being an online wagering company. They can engage with us on racing and sports, novelties, if The Bachelor, why not? Some customers enjoy the streaming and content services that we offer. And we also have, free to play and social betting like AFL and NRL footy tipping as an example. And then some just enjoy the media and the social content that we offer. We've got a unique sense of humour, and things like the campaigns that we roll out, like Elite Average games, connect both with our customers, but even those that aren't necessarily Sportsbet customers get a lot of fun out of those promotions. In terms of our team, you can see I'm a little bit speechless. I'm actually very, very proud of the team we work for. We're very passionate team. We are talented. I don't want to say we strive for perfection, but we do have a high bar, and we're always curious, always looking for ways to do things better and smarter. So it's a really awesome place to work. But that all said, we have fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So, we try and strike the balance between, as the old paradigm goes, work hard, play hard. So that's a little bit of Sportsbet.
Well, it does sound like that. And Lina, we faced a very challenging year last year where many businesses underwent massive changes to adapt. So how did your technology team respond? And how do you think those ways of working will actually impact Sportsbet in a post-COVID world, whenever that will be?
Yeah. Post-COVID, that's an interesting kind of concept at the moment, isn't it? Look, our teams did an absolutely phenomenal job. And, I think everyone here at Sportsbet would say we're a key contributor to setting up our business to get through, what was a very, very complex and challenging year for most people. We were fortunate that we had done a fairly significant amount of transformation leading up to COVID, not by design, just because it was part of our strategy. That included migrating fully to the cloud. We'd also decommissioned our data centres early in 2020. We'd done some fairly significant modernisation of our network. And all of those things together meant that we were able to leverage all of that investment and transformation and remove some of the long-standing constraints that we had to enable some of our operational teams to work fully remotely. So, that it was kind of like all the ingredients of the recipe came together, and essentially through the thought leadership and the resilience of our team, they were able to bring that to life. A big challenge for us last year is Melbourne Cup. Melbourne Cup is our, for those that again don't necessarily connect with our industry, is the biggest year for us, the biggest event for us in any given year, both in terms of customer engagement and volumes. And forecasts were suggesting that we were going to be in the vicinity of 2 to 3 times more than any other volume we'd seen in any other year, which is just mind-boggling. But through the perseverance and the thought leadership from our team, we were able to scale and optimise to handle those volumes. And thankfully, we got through quite seamlessly, both the Spring Carnival season and Melbourne Cup. And that was with a team working fully remotely. And that was also during a very significant customer migration that we were doing with BetEasy. So we're really proud with the achievements that we delivered last year. But to the second part of your question, how has that set us up for post-COVID? We're in the office now. We're working through what a hybrid working model looks like, trying to strike the right balance between the culture that we had before that's kind of brought us to this level of success, but also benefiting or leveraging the benefits of flexible working. We know there's goodness in both of those outcomes. So the discussions now are less about tech and actually more about how we bring that hybrid kind of ways of working to life. So we're in a really good position.
Well, it sounds like it. And it's so impressive that your business was able to pivot in the way that you did. Lina, Sportsbet migrated to the cloud back in 2018, as you said. What was the main driver behind that decision? And have there been any unexpected benefits that you didn't perhaps foresee?
Yeah, there were a couple of key drivers. I have to say, though, the most predominant driver was around growth. Over the last 5 to 7 years, Sportsbet's growth has just been exponential. We use a barometer at Sportsbet called bets per minute, and essentially that's our indicator of where our platforms need to perform in order to handle peak volumes. Now, bets per minute basically translates into how many concurrent bets are being struck at peak within a minute window. Just to give you context, 6 years ago, that number was 9,000 bets per minute. Last year, we peaked at 65,000 bets per minute. So that gives you a sense of the amount of growth that we have experienced year on year. Now, wind the clock back and you think about, an on-premise infrastructure and just the amount of tin that you just need to keep throwing at that kind of growth to be able to sustain, to the extent possible, a customer experience that's not disruptive was pretty much getting near impossible. So that was one of the key drivers for us, is that we just genuinely didn't believe that we could sustain the growth with the footprint that we had, even with throwing cash at it every year. The second kind of key driver, and it's as material but not as obvious, was just the increasing need for us to have platform capabilities that provided us with the agility and the flexibility and the resilience that we needed. Our products have become significantly more complicated and sophisticated over time. They demand more grunt, if you like, from the platforms. Our customers demand more, just in terms, and as they should, just in terms of security, in terms of speed, in terms of uptime and availability. And our industry is so dynamic and so competitive that all of those things, got us to a place where if we didn't have the flexibility in our platforms to be able to respond to those drivers, we were going to fall behind, and that's not where we want to be. So they're probably the key drivers, that kind of led us to the all cloud strategy. In terms of benefits, I need to start with, this was a very significant and, at some stages quite daunting transformation for us. It was almost 5,000 units that we needed to migrate to the cloud. So it wasn't insignificant for the size of business that we have, but the benefits are definitely paying off. Since migration, we've been able to scale our platform to 3 times the size that we had pre-migration. Our availability targets, we're continuing to raise what those targets are, because we keep exceeding the targets, which is a fantastic place to be. And we actually have significantly more flexibility now in the innovation that we can do with platforms and the flex that we have with cloud. Our teams, our kind of product development teams have more autonomy in the way they build. They can do more innovation without kind of committing to code, if you like, to prod. And there's just so much more benefit that we can have in terms of shipping products to customers so much more faster than what we could do before. So there's a range of kind of tangible and maybe less tangible benefits, but we're all standing here with a lot of confidence around the decision we made.
I'm so happy to hear that. And one thing that really impressed me is that Sportsbet successfully migrated and closed down your 2 primary data centers in just 24 months. That's insane. I mean, I understand that was a whole year faster than expected. So now you're all in on AWS. What's your next kind of focus? I mean, you've done so much. Where to next?
Yeah, look, it's fair to say that we are really, really pleased with how far we've come. There was certainly a lot of heavy lifting that was involved, but we also know there's more opportunity. We know that there's more that we can get out of the investment we've had, and we also know that there's always more products and more services that we can avail ourselves of. So where we are right now, we're actually partnering with AWS with a maturity assessment, so that we can actually get an objective view of how we're doing around a range of capabilities. And from that, what we'll do is we'll identify a couple of areas that we want to do some targeted deep dives on, and leverage from the broader AWS community around what other partners may have already trailblazed in those areas that we want to do better on, or maybe transform on. And from that, we'll form our next wave, if you like, of transformation and evolution. Over and above that, though, there are some areas that we're going after. We have a continuing target of raising the bar on essentially eliminating service disruption for our customers. So one of the focus areas that we have at the moment is around driving a high availability set of outcomes across the platforms, really focusing on failover capability and ensuring that we talk about self-healing, we talk about the resilience and the redundancy that sits within the various capabilities we have with AWS, but it's really taking that to the next level, and identifying vulnerabilities that we might not know we have yet. So we were actually undergoing some work, again partnering with AWS on how we identify some of those areas and raise the bar, as I said, on eliminating service disruption. And the other key focus area for us is what we internally call no ops, and it's really around building upon what we've already done. How do we even further extend enhanced monitoring? How do we get better at proactive and canary alerting? How do we further drive automation across every part of the life cycle? And to the extent that we can, how do we leverage technologies like RPA, machine learning, and AI to truly get us to the next generation of no ops? So they're things that we're working on now as well.
Well, I'm so excited that AWS is such a big part of your journey and your strategy, and that you're continuing to innovate. It's really cool to see. Finally, Lina, what advice would you give other customers who are considering the cloud? Are there any learnings from any challenges you overcame? Because the reason I ask this, I mean, shutting down 2 data centers is a huge and very daunting project. And then I imagine you knew that you kind of had to take those steps because of everything you mentioned previously. But is there any advice for someone who might be looking at doing the same thing?
It's interesting to say that, because we tend to often focus on the tech part of migration, but probably the first thing I'd say to anyone who's considering moving to cloud is really kind of just step back a little bit and reflect on your organizational culture and your organizational readiness for the change. Because whilst there is a lot of tech challenge and complexity and heavy lifting that's required, and investment, there's investment obviously, but it absolutely needs a whole of business approach. Tech cannot do this on its own, and in fact will fail if it's not embraced right throughout the organization. So that'd be the first thing I'd say. I think the other thing I'd say is go in with your eyes wide open about the benefits that you can get, but also the organizational change that comes with that. Like I said, there's significant uplift in the technical capabilities that you get. There's a really engaging position for talented IT professionals, just in terms of the career investment that you can make when you're on one of these journeys. But you also need to be, you need to have your eyes wide open around it. Actually requires you to think differently about product innovation and development. You need to think differently about the way you forecast and manage costs. You really need to think differently about the way you evaluate new investment opportunities. You need to think differently about product selection, third-party product selection, and the partners, third-party partners that you want to engage with, because, when you're all in cloud, there's some paradigms that 100% change, and you need to think about those. If I was to kind of share my 3 tips or learnings, along the lines of that, just that last point is, firstly, don't underestimate the organizational change, and acknowledge that it's a continuous learning journey. There are always, as your business evolves, as AWS evolves, there are always more opportunity and more to learn, more to gauge, more to evolve, so that you can actually get the full benefit of what that investment affords. The second kind of learning would be, plan for the transition. Moving from CapEx to OpEx is not as simple as what it sounds. Forecasting, particularly when you're going through a migration phase, is really difficult because you don't have a baseline. You don't have an OpEx baseline. Your baseline's historically a CapEx, and they're flatlined because, it's divided by 3 or divided by 5 or whatever. So that first period can be really difficult, and it's really important that you partner really strongly with your finance team, because they will be both a partner and an advocate for you as you kind of ride through those early waves of transition. And probably the third point would be, where you can, optimize while you're migrating. It sounds easy, and it's not. It's actually quite difficult to know when you might invest a little bit more time up front, particularly where you're dealing with legacy, where you might want to optimize and maybe re-architect before you migrate versus migrate and then re-architecting. But it's actually harder to optimize once you've migrated, because often time gets the better of you, and it's hard to kind of then go back and justify the case for going back and optimizing. So that'd be my, there's probably a long list, but that would be probably the top 3 that I'd share if someone shouted me a coffee.
Lina, thank you so much. I owe you not just a coffee, but a huge banquet and a lunch for all those insights. Thank you so much for sharing. Sportsbet is the most incredible company. We are so thrilled to partner with you, and I just can't wait to continue to watch you innovate and just build on the cloud. It's a really exciting time.
Thanks, Aley. It was great to chat.
Bye. Thank you.